Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I have a special guest. His name is Chris Craig. He is based out of Arizona. And if
Las
you guys,
Vegas.
oh, Las Vegas, sorry about that.
Okay. So,
And he has an amazing tax strategy that can offer up to 700 to 1.2 million dollars in tax deduction for as little as $73,000, leveraging tiny homes. He's a former Marine and a man on a mission. So thank you so much, Chris, for jumping on the podcast. But my first question to all my guests that jump on the podcast is, what is your purpose in doing what you're doing now? Like, why are you doing the things you're doing? Like, what's your main mission?
well, my main mission, is one, I probably got ADD or ADHD because I can't seem to focus on anything. It's like I'm over here. I've got like 10 different businesses. I've got building materials, doors and closets, done general contracting. I've got a tax firm. Then I'm, investing in real estate and I have been for 24 years.
Yeah.
Just a little bit about me. I was in the Marine Corps
Yep.
from 93 to 97, and then stayed in the reserves after I got out of active duty up until like 2000, 2001. I don't even remember now. um
Yeah.
so I was in communications, so nothing, just basically a radio operator, and but they
Hmm.
battery operated grunt, for the most part. And so first got into, say, real estate investing, and basically I was in telecommunications in the .com era, like mid 1990s to late 2000. So just a real quick, that crashed. I had no job. We were a dime a
Hmm.
dozen in the tech field in 2000. So from that point, got introduced to, we call him the foreclosure guru, by a gentleman by the name of Douglas McCabe. So if you're in Subto or Gator, you've seen Matt McCabe. His son is part of Creative Title and Escrow. So Matt was 16 years old when I got introduced to his dad. So I started working for his father for 3, 4 years, knocking doors, doing wholesale. You know,
Okay.
and then creative finance back then. We were buying properties, pre foreclosure on the auction. So I've been exposed to this. Yeah, they had a mortgage company, so I got thrown into the mix of managing my own branch in the mortgage business. So, learn the money side of it first, and then,
Right.
he taught me distressed real estate. So then, over the years, you just elevate yourself. So went to
Hmm.
law school, got a master's of law in business bankruptcy and taxation, worked for various law firms, 3 or 4 of them over the last 15 years,
Yeah.
doing, business bankruptcy and real estate. So that's my little bit of my background. So
Right.
let's just dive in. I mean,
Yeah. Like, what's your purpose on like
really,
now? Like, what you're
it's,
doing? Yeah.
you start making a lot of money, you start studying the tax code, and you're like, how do I reduce what I'm paying?
Hmm.
If you're a W 2 high income earner, there's very few options for you to do anything, very few.
Yeah.
And so it's more, I've been the study of tax law for 20 something years, and I went and got an education in it, and it's still confusing today, even for any practitioner, you know?
Yeah.
So, one, build wealth, reduce taxes,
Yep.
right? To build more wealth. That's really the game.
Yep.
And when they talk about, and you see headlines that say the wealthy only pay 1%. True,
Hmm.
because the lower amount of money you make, there's less opportunities for you to reduce your taxes.
Hmm.
That's the reality of it. You're a $100,000 a year W-2 employee, you're barely squeaking by anyway.
Hmm.
What opportunities do you have to really reduce anything other than a couple?
Right.
And so, you know, the mission is, hey, I provide a platform or advice, and I'm pretty liberal with my time. People call me, hey, can I get a quick consultation or something? We end up talking for an hour and a half. I don't even charge for that, right? I
Right.
probably should, but
You should.
um, I should. But at the same time, it's, maybe they're not the right client for me. And I sometimes tell people we're probably not the right fit. Not today,
Right.
anyway. But we can maintain the relationship. When you get to a place where you can hire me, then fine, then we can further talk. But feel free to give me a call if you have any questions, or email me. So there are a number of strategies. If you're W-2, you could do, you buy Subto real estate. And I'm going to give you a quick illustration.
Yeah, for sure.
$2 million in real estate. So I was talking to a physician. He became a client. So he's got $1.2 million of income. But he's a doctor. Like, how can he qualify for real estate professional status? He's not. So really
Right.
the only strategy he has is buy two existing short-term rentals on sub-2
Mm-hmm.
basis, short-term rental loophole, cost segregation, which is where we get a report, accelerate the depreciation on 5-year
Mm-hmm.
and 15-year property, then use 60% bonus depreciation. So
Yeah.
in general, on a $2 million property, the cost seg report is going to give you about $700,000, about 35% of the purchase price of accelerated depreciation, of which this year for 2024 you could use 60% of. So
Yep.
that's 420,000 off his income. So now we're down to 800. Now I have this other strategy is we use a charitable gift financing. I have a
Yep.
lender that will lend money to a charitable gift trust. So it's not you're not personally signing for the obligation. And so you can utilize for this year 60% of your adjusted gross income. So for illustration purposes, we just knocked down the guy's income, let's say to 800 grand. So now we can take it down 480 by using charitable gift financing. So they basically lend the money to your trust, then donate it to a charity. Okay. So now we've got your income now to, let's say, what is it? 20,000, right?
Sure. One quick
Okay.
question about that. If you borrow money from an entity or a lender to a trust, how does that get paid back?
When you die, because your trust, we're placing an asset into the trust. It could be membership interest of an LLC you have.
Okay.
It's a revocable trust.
Right.
I'm going to tell you to read between the lines. So if it's revocable, let's say we put an asset into the trust that has the same value as the loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for compliance purposes, we complied. After you're the loan, you can pull that asset out of the trust because it's revocable.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Okay. But you have to
So
have an asset in the trust in order for you to kind
correct.
of
It could be
got you.
crypto, it could be LLC membership interest, anything that has something of similar value, you're
I
going to
see.
pledge initially to the trust for compliance reasons. So now we
Gotcha.
just taken a guy from 1.2 million down to 320,000. Right? So on 1.2 million, if you're getting taxed, roughly on the federal side of it, it's like 300. So taxes are based on a marginalized tax rate because every little income bracket you
Mm.
go through, it steps up. You're not taxed
Yep.
like 40.8% on the full amount.
Right.
It's marginalized. So 1.2 million in income has a federal tax of 363,655.
Wow.
I'm actually doing the scenario right now
Okay.
on my software. So now that we're at 320, there's other little tax strategies. If you've got kids, you pay your kids. If
Mm-hmm.
you've got, we can use captive insurance for the other, amount. If you're an S corporation, you're going to take, maybe $100,000 salary
Right.
or, 401k, defined
Mm-hmm.
benefit plan, cash balance plans. There's all these different pension plan strategies. You can fund your pension plan to reduce that income. If
Right.
you have an employee or some business or your wife, you can do what they call 105 plans, which are called like medical expense reimbursement plans.
Sure.
So, the tax strategy for this guy basically got him down to about, I think, 28 or $30,000 of overall taxes he would pay
Uh-huh.
in lieu of 363. Now,
Okay.
when we look at that, he's basically coming out of pocket about 200 and something thousand, maybe it was like 250 grand,
Of
but he's going to
taxes.
own real estate,
Yeah.
appreciating asset. So he didn't just throw his money away, right?
Right.
This is one strategy. And then the charitable gift financing cost about 10% of whatever you're borrowing because you're paying prepaid interest at whatever the AFR rate
Mm.
is for 3 or 4%. It's dropping now with the Fed.
Okay.
Um, so what did you save? You put out, let's say, 260 and
And
basically saved 100 and something $1,000 that you get to
mm,
keep in your pocket, but you also acquired
an asset.
two rental properties, right?
Right.
Now, let's switch gears.
Okay.
This transient tiny home thing, and I want to get away from the road for tiny homes because tax law is so, uh, depending on what you call the thing, could have a different meaning in law, right?
Okay.
So transient lodging trailers, it's a trailer,
Hmm.
a box house, tiny house, whatever you call it, right?
Yeah.
But the case law says as long as it's for transient use, because it's movable property, it's
Hmm.
tangible personal property. The tax court decisions state that can be utilized for Section 179. The minute somebody stays longer than 30 days, you don't get a Section 179 deduction.
I see. So this could be also a mobile home park. Could it be an RV park? What could it be?
RV parks, mobile homes fall in the classification of tangible personal property just like RVs.
Okay.
It comes down to the functional, what they call a use test. So if
Ah.
you put an RV in an RV or campground and you just put it in there, then you leased it out to somebody, or they leased it out to, I go rent an RV. If I rented that RV and use it as my primary dwelling,
Right.
you're screwed.
Yeah. You can't do that.
Even though I'm the investor,
Yeah.
it takes it out of, it converts it to a dwelling. So as long
Right.
as you do short-term rentals and the average of your rental commitments for the year are less than 30 days per person, so if you had, you know, 10 renters in there, and you rented the property for 300, or 280 days out of the year, they would average 28 days per person.
Hmm.
So you would fall under the Section 179
Right.
equipment expense. So what Section 179 is basically it allows you to deduct for 2024 $1,220,000 of equipment or qualified purchases.
I
So
see.
it's like an accelerated depreciation. Follow me?
Right. Yeah. I follow you.
Okay. You're capped at 1,022,000
I
or
see.
a million. Now next year it's going to, I think, go up to 1.34 million. So
Right.
it cannot it offsets income, ordinary income, meaning your W-2, 1099, Schedule C income,
Hmm.
dollar for dollar.
Hmm.
Okay. So with this transient lodging trailer, I'm changing the name of it because
Yeah.
I'm rewriting these guys' contracts. Like, let's call it something different, right?
Right.
You can coin the name tiny home or box house because that's the manufacturer, whatever. But as far as it going on your tax schedules and what we're calling the thing, it's got a VIN number, so it's a trailer.
Hmm.
It doesn't fall in a mobile home category because the square footage does not meet that requirement, right?
I see.
So it's just it's a trailer. It's a
Right.
lodging trailer. And so this company is basically placing these in like oil fields or for workforce housing in
Mm.
remote areas. So it's a corporate lease with the general contractor service provider, which
Yeah.
is perfect because now it takes you outside. Now it's clearly a transient or lodging unit. So
Right.
what they're doing is you're putting down 10%. We got to get appraisal on the unit. That's
Okay.
based. The appraisal is going to appraise the trailer based upon the income approach, which is under tax law, right?
I see.
So the capitalization rates are 4 to 8.5%. That's the national average right now, 4 to 8.5% capitalization rate. So the income at say $100 per day,
Hmm.
365 days a year, at a 5.25% capitalization rate puts us at like $700,000, 699 and some change, right?
Okay.
Appraisers, when they have hard evidence, an executed lease for this specific unit that's going to go into this specific field or area,
Hmm.
we have evidence, right? And IRS is all based on evidence. So it's not
Right.
hypothetical, it's real, it's a true lease. The lease pays your payments because they're financing the unit with the 10% down,
Right.
360 months at 0%.
From the manufacturer.
Correct. Manufacturer financing. It's no different. Look, a couple of years ago, I was, when I was building a couple spec houses during the pandemic, equipment, rental equipment, like heavy equipment type stuff,
Sure.
you couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you were paying 200, 300% above market value for it because you couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Like even if I tried to rent it, it was already allocated, rented out to other big contractors, right?
Demand was
So
so
I
high.
paid $500,000 for a piece of equipment that was maybe worth 100.
Oh wow. That's
Did I
crazy.
still get my Section 179 deduction?
Yeah, you sure did.
Absolutely. I sure did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, and
Hey,
the cost to rent that, well, it wasn't even a matter. I couldn't even find the equipment to rent for the job I needed it to
mm,
do. your project would get delayed. So
Right.
no matter what, did my equipment pay for itself for what I needed? Absolutely.
Right.
Right. It would have cost me that much to rent it anyway because it's a per day rental
Yeah.
on equipment, and that shit's expensive. You know, some of the stuff could be like $500 to $1,000 a day, right?
Wow. And
So
and
if
that's
you
part
need
of
the
the whole tax code too, as well, right? It's the
right
transient. Yeah.
transient equipment,
Okay.
you know, a lot of people go, well, I'm going to go buy a vehicle for my business. Well, you can't really. If you buy $100,000 G wagon or whatever
Right.
for your business, you're not deducting a full $100,000. There's like I think the max you can deduct on a vehicle with bonus depreciation and Section 179 is like 30 grand for the year.
Oh wow. Okay, so they're
Yeah,
really screwed themselves
right. Now, if you place it
potentially.
into a rental pool, if it
Mm.
becomes a rental vehicle, part of a
Yeah.
company,
Right.
then you can deduct it.
I see. Makes
So
sense.
let's say you don't drive it, you want to rent it out for photo shoots because it's a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
The minute you use that vehicle for personal use,
Mm.
it screws everything up.
Yeah, you're
So
commingling at that point.
it well then you like one day could you're inviting yourself because it says
Mm.
if it's a rental piece of equipment, personal days, business days,
Mm.
like it has to be all business.
Right.
So with this tiny home structure, transient lodging trailer, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
um, I'm even putting together a deal with the charitable lender
Mm-hmm.
where they might even fund the down payment.
Oh wow. The
And then you
10%.
pay the down payment back over, say, 5 years.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Well, look, at the end of the day, they're going to require you put some skin in the game, maybe
Sure.
20,000, 30,000. So let's say they fund the other 35 grand. That's 35 more $1,000 you have in your pocket to go earn
Yeah.
10 or 12% on.
Yeah.
So if they're going to fund you that down payment, say for 5% or 6%, right?
Right.
And you're making 12% on your money,
Yeah.
you're golden, right?
Right.
Working on that structure. I know I'll be on a call later today,
Yeah.
but so Section 179 under this mechanism that I've talked to these guys, see if they were willing to like entertain the idea, and when they said yeah, they only have 300 units to sell this
Okay.
year. That's
Oh
what they
wow.
have
That's
left.
that's nothing.
Right. We might end up getting 1,000 orders, or they might,
Right.
with this structure. So it's dude. He just sent me another unit. They have 50 of them right now. It's a duplex tiny home.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
And
amazing.
have you heard of Boxable?
I have. Yeah. They're a
Okay,
manufacturer
so
based out
they're
of
so
California.
far behind in their
Right.
production. So these guys are pushing out three up to 1,000 units a month,
Wow. That's
and it's a
crazy.
fold-out house.
Right.
It's a Boxable, but Boxable is not steel. It's a magnesium oxide board stuffed with foam.
Right.
I got they gave me 4 years ago their original two prototype units,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was going to put them on a lot up in Idaho, and
Okay.
then they got vandalized. So I was like, well, that's the end of that one. But
So are you putting these transient homes on like how big of an acre, how big of a lot? Like where are you putting
well, I
these?
mean, they're only like 380 square feet.
Yeah, they're small.
So the program for the tax deduction is they're placing them into there's like three locations in Texas to the oil. It's for
Okay.
oil workers, right? Because
Gotcha.
some of these areas are like hour, two
Yep.
hours remote,
Right.
and they're paying more. Well, first, there's not enough hotel space in the general area,
Okay. Yep.
so they were like, we're having to transport these guys daily in to do the work shifts.
Mm-hmm.
So they're paying anywhere from 100 to 145 bucks a day
Oh
for
wow.
the lease of the unit.
That's good. That's good money. Good money right there.
Right. Yeah, and it's just the camps move. They're there
Mm-hmm.
for however long, and then they move to the next drilling site, and then the
Yeah.
next drilling site. So these aren't placed on any sort of block or pad. They just
Right.
level out the area, and they just drop. They fold right out and drop right in.
How's the plumbing? How's the electrical? Like, where did you get all that?
It's
Do they
just like
know?
I mean, most of it's probably generators out in these remote
Sure.
areas,
Uh huh.
and then like they've got to build like a septic type.
Hmm. Makes sense.
They're putting tanks where it's not a drain field, so they're having to bring probably
Uh,
pumper trucks in, every
I
week
see.
or something like that to pump it out. So when you
Right.
can't do a typical septic system, you're basically like putting a larger tank
Yeah.
in the ground, maybe a double tank, and then they'll bring in, the suction trucks every
Sure.
week or whatever that is. That's not really our issue,
Right.
So
Yeah, it's their issue. Well, I mean, to kind of summarize some things, like I would definitely want to give some value to the audience and see like at different levels of income, right? You have like your W-2
so
worker that
check,
you're mentioning. Go ahead.
yeah, check this out.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs a 700K tax deduction.
Of course. Yeah.
You know what we have the ability to do with these is
What's that?
fractionalize them. We can
Oh,
fractionalize it.
yeah. That's
So
awesome.
if you got 200K in income,
Yeah.
we can fractionalize the purchase into thirds or fourths or
Mm,
tenths or sevenths or fifths, whatever it makes sense, right?
right.
So maybe you only purchase 35% of the unit and somebody else does the other 65%.
Yeah.
We can do that.
And they get 35% of the tax benefits to them,
Right. And
right?
ownership of that unit. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a co-purchase agreement, I guess is what it is. And we're only
Okay.
doing this in LLCs. Nobody's signing personally on anything.
I see.
There's no
Okay.
personal guarantees.
So what are
There's
the
force
risks
majeure
associated with it?
clauses that say
Okay.
if the frustration of the business model is frustrated 5, 6, 7 years down the road, 2 years, 1 year, it doesn't matter. Everybody's relieved.
Mm, okay.
Okay.
And what are
Because
some
that
of the
can
risks?
happen.
Right.
What's that?
What are some of the risks associated with that, with a potential structure like that?
Well, it makes it so there is no risk.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's being done so that you get the tax benefits, and if something happens down the road, the manufacturer's just going to buy back the unit for $1. So
Oh,
you
I
don't have
see.
so you don't have recapture gain, and you're relieved of the financial obligation to the
Obligation. Yeah.
LLC. They're not a finance institution, so when we look at like cancellation of debt, right?
Yeah.
You have to be an eligible financial institution to file one of those. You and I can't file a 1099-C.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Gotcha. So this could work at any income level if you think about
Right.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it does. Does
it
it?
could. Yeah.
Where does it really? Where's the sweet spot for most people? It's probably
Exactly.
if you're in the income level of about 200 grand or more
Okay.
net
Yeah.
income,
Net
or
income, like
W
going down
two
to your pocket.
or W2 income. It makes sense that because W2 income, you're probably like 40 grand
Hmm.
taxes. 24% at 200,000. If you're married, your tax rate goes down a little bit less.
Hmm.
So it seems to work best that people who are paying $50,000 or more
Yeah.
in between federal and state income taxes.
Gotcha. So that's a good sweet spot for people that are looking to diversify their taxes, and they also get cash flow too as well. Is it a quarterly distribution
Well,
or
the
is it?
cash flow pays the obligation, so there's really
Oh,
essentially no cash flow. There
oh, I
can
see.
we're trying to work that because you should be getting maybe 1,000 or 2 grand a year of the net cash flow or something for an active trader business, right?
Right, right.
Right.
Okay.
So
So it's just more of just a tax play where you just don't have to pay
it's
for
a
the
tax play.
taxes. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
purely a tax play.
And then you leverage depreciation on the first year, and then let's say next year, they do that all over again? They gotta dump a
They buy another
chunk of
unit the following
fine.
year.
Yeah, okay, so you gotta rinse and repeat basically every single year, right?
Yep, yep,
I
yep.
see.
And the thing with Section 179, it does not carry over into the next year.
Ah, so it's only a 1 year
You have to
situation.
make the election in the year of purchase,
Hmm.
and whatever you don't use just goes under the standard 5-year depreciation table.
I see. Okay.
So it's maximize it, don't buy more than what you need, right?
Yeah.
And fractionalize the rest to only buy what you need.
I see. Do you have a website that people can go to take a look at the offerings?
Um, it's being revamped on
Okay.
this right now, but it's you can go to, it's not my website, it's the
Sure.
manufacturer and the investment firm. You can either go to boxhouse.com
Uh-huh.
and look at the units, or you
Sure.
can go to sequoiainvestments.com.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, for my tax firm, it's just called thetaxfirm.us.
Right. Right. So this is a great vehicle for people that are actually looking to do something with their taxes and their to offset their taxes. Is there any other, I guess, tips and tricks that comes with this particular transient offering?
I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to just purchase them outright,
Hmm.
Of course, it's a different scenario, right? You're
Yeah.
just buying it outright. It's the retail cost. It's not
Hmm.
there's no lease type. When you don't have a lease, think of this as a going concern. You're buying kind of a business like the box. You're buying the trailer with an income generating lease, so that gives you this higher value. If
Yeah.
you just go buy it with no lease, it's just going to be like, they have different models. It's going to be 70 to 100 and something thousand bucks depending on what model you get, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, these are great because they're available now. You could probably have one in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Put it into your spot wherever you're going to drop it in at,
Uh huh.
and you can start doing like the whole glamping type scenario, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, so these types of I've been in them because they're based in St. George, Utah.
Okay.
Dude, these are the nicest like tiny homes I've ever been in or seen.
Right. I've seen a lot of
Like
those, and they're very unique. They're very very
like
unique.
this one's got a full bathroom, like a shower, a toilet, the kitchen, a washer and dryer built into it,
Oh
a
wow.
refrigerator, not full size, but compact refrigerator, freezer. You
Yeah.
could have a bed, a desk, another bed over here, or bunk beds
Sure.
um, in those units. So it can be modified. There's different models to say depending on what the use or need would be, right?
Right.
But the fact that like you had a kitchen, I was like, and it was enough space. Like if I was single and didn't have a family, I could live in this
Sure.
just by myself.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
and when you go back to the fractional pieces of it, right? If I was like, let's say I want to put like 35% or buy 35% of the shares, whatever. What is my responsibility as the person that is buying it? Do I have to like do anything with the lease? Like what happens with the lease? Or not? There's no lease. What happens to all the operation that goes into it? Who handles all that?
The operation, the lessee
Yeah.
takes full responsibility, insurance, management,
Okay.
repairs, all of that.
And me as the person that got into the fractional is just gets a report every single month, every single quarter. Like what's the whole
Probably
communication
an
process?
annual. If you did
Annual.
a quarterly or whatever, I mean, it just
Right.
drives up the administrative cost. So it's probably going to be a semi. Those
Yeah.
details can be worked out, I think, on a case by case basis, right?
Gotcha.
But basically, is it's all contractual. There's agreements. They take on the responsibility of X, Y, and Z,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So it works out on the fractional side. So,
Gotcha.
basically, the agreement is going to spell out
Hmm.
everything you needed to spell out.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you're using this for your to offset your taxes too as well, or
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
How many years have you done it already? Have you been doing
Well,
it?
I just met with these guys like 3 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna take one down as well
Oh, awesome.
because I've got lost carry forwards on real estate stuff for like
Yeah.
probably another year or two. But
Yeah.
I've also got some interest income this year that's pretty sizable.
Yeah. And you were
So
just can you like this one last thing? You were touching base on like our meeting like probably a couple days ago about how you can buy a piece of property and then you can potentially a year later donate that piece of property for the max
so
amount of assessed value.
charitable donations are limited to
Yeah.
50 charitable land donations to a qualified charity, meaning a 501c3,
Yep.
not a foundation. The difference between a foundation and a public charity is a 50% deduction or a 30% deduction.
Mm,
Okay,
I see.
so a 501c3, you go buy land, or you don't even have to buy it from. You go buy anything you want, a house in East Cleveland, Ohio, or something like that. That's pretty beat up,
Yeah.
right? So you tax assessed value might be 100 grand, right?
Right.
You could let's say you buy it for 5 or 10 just because it maybe really needs to be a tear down or it maybe needs
Yeah.
significant repairs. So any donations over $5,000, you have to have an appraisal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
so you'd probably get a restricted appraisal, and have the property valued based on the tax assessed value, which is as is, right?
Okay.
And so let's say that appraisal comes in at 100 grand for this terrible looking house that needs repairs.
Right.
If you bought it for 5, the tax code, if you donated it right away, you would only be able to donate it based on the basis.
Sure.
On real estate, you have to hold for a year and a day to get fair market value deduction.
Mm-hmm.
So appraisal's 100, you bought 5, you just got a 20x.
That's
You bought it for
amazing.
10, you got a 10x. So how does that really, in a nutshell, if you have $100,000 of income, let's say you're in a 20% tax category, right?
Right.
So you're going to pay 20%. Okay, so if you have $100,000 donation that you paid 5 grand for,
Right.
right? You can use 50% of that towards your income.
Okay.
All right, so it's going to drop your income by 50%. So donations are 50% of your tax adjusted gross income. So
I
if you
see.
had a $100,000 valuation, you can only use $50,000 of it in that year.
And then the next year, go to
So
50?
right, and it carries over for the next 5 years.
Oh, 5 years.
So
Okay.
the idea is to find things
Mm-hmm.
that you can donate that's going to maximize your. It's going to drop your taxable adjustable taxable income by 50 grand. So
Uh-huh.
now your taxable income is only 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're in a you're going to get taxed $7,000 on that, right?
Sure.
Versus so if your tax rate was 20,000 on the 100, you bought this thing for 5, like that's where you
Yeah.
create apples to apples.
I see. Okay.
You
Well,
got to make sure the numbers work out to make sense. The other thing is medical supplies.
yeah.
So if you can buy medical supplies or medicine at wholesale prices, the
Mm-hmm.
retail markup on that is can be 100, 200% sometimes.
Okay.
Donating medical items,
Oh.
you get fair market value deduction immediately.
Oh. Wow. That's amazing. That's a
Yeah.
ninja tip right there. Dude, thank you so much for all that information, Chris. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm very conscious of your time. So where can people find you if they want to get a hold of you, except for your phone number right here?
Yeah, just it's Chris at thetaxfirm.us or
Uh-huh.
just go to thetaxfirm.us and I have a calendar in there. You just schedule, a discovery call.
Awesome, Chris. Thank you so much for the show. Thank you so much for providing so
Thank
much
you,
value.
Philip.
Yeah, I will talk to you later. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. All
All
right.
right,
Bye bye.
bye.